Hey everybody, this is Dream, and today we're going to do a DraftKings video here for NBA. This slate is relatively crazy. I definitely recommend playing light. The reason it's pretty crazy is because we got a lot of guys coming in, a lot of teams shorthanded, lots of injuries as well. It's kind of rough, honestly. I mean, the slates this week have been rough because of all the trades and stuff, but it's definitely going to be rough today. There's a ton of guys that are questionable and doubtful and probable and all sorts of things. So, with that said, let's go ahead and get into the injury report. For the Spurs, we have Keldon Johnson, Jones, and Sochan all questionable, and Vassell is out. For the Pistons, Cunningham and Bagley are out. For the Suns, Shamet is doubtful, and Booker is probable. For the Pacers, Robinson is out. For the 76ers, Embiid is questionable. For the Hornets, Oubre is out. For the Celtics, Brown is out. Tatum is questionable, and Smart is out. For the Jazz, Westbrook is out. For the Raptors, Podol is questionable, and the Newbie is out. For the Heat, Lowry is out. Oladipo is out, and Robinson is out. For the Timberwolves, Gobert, Conley, and Anderson are questionable, and Towns is out. For the Grizzlies, Adams is out. For the Cavs, Rubio is out. For the Pelicans, Zion is out. For the Thunder, Pokusevski, JRE are both out, and then Dort is questionable. For the Trailblazers, Nurkic is out and Winslow is out. For the Mavs, Doncic is questionable and Cabler is out. And for the Bucks, Portis is out and Middleton is doubtful. For the Clippers, Kawhi Leonard is out and Plumlee, who hasn't gotten there yet, is out. And I kind of expect some of these teams to have more guys that get ruled questionable as the day goes on. This slate's kind of rough. A lot of the reason this is kind of rough is because some of the expensive guys are pretty overpriced, and then we have a ton of value. In fact, I pretty much only found one guy over $6,000 I thought was pretty reasonable so far. So let's go and get into the slate, though. We're going to start with Colin Sexton for Utah. Now, assuming he continues to be in the starting lineup, he's going to be a great option today. We'll have to wait and see if he starts, but if he does, then he will definitely be somebody that I would call an automatic lock on this slate. Nice matchup against Toronto, and he should get all the usage that he got in the last game. Killian Hayes for Detroit also looks pretty interesting today. He's not a must play at this point because he doesn't have because he does have some inconsistencies throughout the season. He's been starting, he just doesn't play consistent minutes, he doesn't shoot the ball consistently either. So he's kind of hard to figure out, but he should get more minutes today with Bay being traded and a couple guys coming in that won't be ready. So I look for him to be an interesting play on the slate. Then we're going to look at Talon Horton Tucker for Utah. Now, this is kind of contingent on him getting more minutes and potentially starting here. He could end up just being the sixth man today, but I would like to see him start to really want to play him. But he is almost nearly minimum price, and he does have some pretty good numbers this season whenever he gets at least 15 or 16 minutes. He's only had a couple games where he didn't do well in that scenario, and he's so cheap today. He's definitely going to be somebody that I could see being on the winning lineup, the top priced lineup today if he does end up starting or becoming the sixth man. Jalen Duren also for Detroit today at $5,000. He seems a little bit too cheap for his potential here. He's a little bit inconsistent, but he's actually been pretty solid lately. But he is a little bit more expensive. He's been more expensive lately because of how good he's been playing. But he's relatively consistent, and there's not a ton of big guys that we can really rely on today. And he's got a nice matchup against the Spurs, who traded away Podol. So I look for him to have an interesting potential in this matchup. Then we're going to look at Hammy Diallo and also Alec Burks. Hammy and Alec Burks, I would say one of them is likely to start today. I don't know which one. Probably leaning towards Burks. Even though Hammy has a little bit more upside as a player, Burks has played pretty well as a starter. But whichever one of those guys ends up starting, I would suggest that they will have likely a big game. I do think one of them will have a big game even if neither one of them started. But I do think both of them have some upside as a result of the matchup. But I also think that it's going to be hard to pick on some of these matchups. Then we're going to look at Mark Williams for Charlotte and also Nick Richards. They both have some upside today now that the Charlotte has traded away the Plumlee. So I think that one of these guys will start. Whichever one starts will probably be in my lineup at center because they both have played pretty well. Though they do have a tough matchup here against Boston, so that's a little bit concerning. But if they're near minimum price, it might be worth the risk and potential payoff for that situation. Gabe Vincent also playing really well as a starter this season, and he should continue to start as long as Oladipo and others are out. And I expect him to play well in this higher paced game against Houston, which will benefit him in this scenario. Overall, his price has popped up a little bit more, which doesn't make him as ideal, but he is still viable on the slate, and so I do think he's a great option, assuming he does end up continue drawing the start and those guys continue to be out. And then we're going to look at Derek White for Boston with Brown already out and Tatum also questionable now. I look for him to have a big game. Obviously, he's pretty expensive now. He's gotten up to about his highest price of the season, but that's just because he's been playing well with Smart out, who's still out, and so I expect him to continue to play well. He's got a nice plus matchup here against Charlotte, so I think he's a viable option on the slate. And then we're going to mention Caleb Martin here for Miami. He has also played pretty well as a starter recently. Now, he does have some inconsistencies, but as long as the guards are out, he's been getting more shots up, and he's been getting more rebounds and stuff like that. So, as long as he continues to play well, he's going to be somebody to consider. He's not a must-play by any stretch, but he is viable on the slate, and I do think he has some viability. As far as the most expensive guys, because we're probably going to need some of them, I look for Giannis to be a guy to take a look at, and also Damian Lillard and Shea Alexander. I think right now those are going to be my top three, along with Julius Randle and the 10,000 plus guys. I do feel like everybody's a little bit overpriced here. If Doncic was to come back today, that would definitely give him some upside, give him some potential as well. And same with Embiid if he ends up playing. But there's kind of an inconsistent slate when it comes to the pricing today. A lot of guys seem way overpriced. Not so much the most expensive guys, but just like there's a lot of guys over $8,000 now, and a lot of them seem overpriced. So we'll have to wait and see how these injuries play out. But if you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Thank you guys for liking, commenting, subscribing, and have a nice day, guys.